Speaking of financials, guys, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink's annual letter out this morning, and the world's largest asset manager announcing the firm will make climate change a focus of all of its investment strategy. Fink's annual letter to CEOs is also the subject of my Deal Book column this morning. In that letter, Fink writes, quote, "The evidence on climate risk is compelling investors to reassess core assumptions of modern finance." He also says in the near future, and sooner than most anticipate, there will be a significant reallocation of capital. Yesterday, I sat down with Larry Fink at BlackRock's headquarters right here in New York, and I asked him about the eureka moment over the past 12 months that made him decide to make this fundamental shift.
I think it was just over time, reading more science, more research, listening to my team. My team came out with a really remarkable study on physical impact from climate change in fall. And that left a big impact on me. And then from reading that, our own internal document that we distributed and published, in fall, when I was at the UN, in fall when I was at the IMF, and all my travels, 3 times to China the past 6 months, every conversation, whether it was 20% or 100%, was related to how should I think about climate change in my portfolio? Or how should, I met with governments, even governments in the Middle East. They were asking, how should they navigate more solar and more wind? Because for OPEC countries, the movement towards renewables is very powerful for them because their OPEC ceiling on production is only based on production, not how much they sell. And in some of the countries use 20 to 40% of their domestic production for domestic usage. So if they could reduce the amount of domestic need, they could actually sell more. And so this is so in every area, Andrew, more and more people are asking us, how should they be more prepared?
What do you tell people who will look at this and say this is just marketing? There was a hedge fund manager in the UK last month who said that BlackRock's record was appalling, that called all of this greenwashing.
I read that. I would like to challenge that person because he doesn't know what we're doing. We have not been that transparent about what we are doing. We had 4,800 companies where we had to change, where we voted against board people. We don't publicize things like that. He's responding to a few proxy votes because that's all it's been public.
You've seen outside organizations that rank financial institutions based on how they voted, and BlackRock has ended up at the bottom of the list.
We have had more engagement with more companies in our corporate stewardship team than anybody. We have the largest corporate stewardship team. In many cases, what people don't see, we had them change their views before they published their proxy. The one thing I've said in all my CEO letters, be engaged with us, have a conversation. Do not wait until there's a proxy season. So there's very few points where the proxy is the big point. I am very proud of many of our records because I know, which is non-public, all the times we've changed management's position on so many things. But what we are announcing also is much greater transparency. So we're willing to live with more transparency, and we're going to be announcing how we're voting on every quarter. We're going to create much greater transparency. So for all those people who are questioning what they do, they're going to have much more to see how we do it. And I'm very proud of how we look at this.
How much of this, though, is driven by the investment itself, getting ahead of the narrative,
yes,
if you will, or what some climate advocates would say should be the goal, which is to save the planet from burning?
Well, I, as a fiduciary, and especially in the United States, living under the rules of ERISA, where you're required to only focus on the maximization of return, those climate people who believe we have to save the planet, I understand what they're saying, but we're living under a different rule in this country, and we have to live under that rule.
Do you think that rule should change?
I have been advocating for that rule to change quite considerably. It actually started changing under President Obama and reversed itself under President Trump. So this is something that I do believe needs to be relooked at. But what we are saying here, we believe under ERISA and maximization of return, we believe a portfolio that focuses on sustainability and climate change will be a portfolio that outperforms. So the main component of the letter is saying this is going to be a great investment over the next 10 years. And it will also help the planet.